The Answer.
With the power of Tandem HR, you are in the fast lane on Main Street with Get Down to Business with Shalom Klein, the show for business and jobs. Now, the champion of networking, the advocate of jobs, the guru of business, your host, Shalom Klein.
We are all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. And business, we talk a lot about business here. You are on with Get Down to Business, and I'm your host, Shalom Klein. Remember, you can always download podcasts from Get Down to Business on my website at shalomklein.com. And while you are there, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Shalom Klein. It's going to be a jam-packed week of content and information you will not want to miss. It's a live show. You could call us at 312-642-5600, 312-642-5600. And as always, I encourage you to contact our good friends at Tandem HR, your solution center. They are a fantastic resource on everything HR. Check out their brand new website, tandemhr.com, or give them a call, 630-928-0510. So as mentioned, it is indeed a jam-packed lineup of content and information you will not want to miss. I know we have sort of just concluded tax season, but that does not prevent me from bringing on, as our first guest on the program, Howard Stone, a very accomplished litigator with extensive experience in white-collar criminal defense and healthcare administrative law. Howard is a former IRS agent and former assistant United States attorney in the Northern District of Illinois, and I'm thrilled to have Howard here as our first guest on Get Down to Business this evening. Howard, welcome to the program.
Nice to be with you.
Absolutely. So, Howard, you have dedicated your career in different angles. You have, as I mentioned, you are a former assistant United States attorney, but right now you are focused on helping protect companies, specifically in healthcare. Tell us a little bit more about your background and how it's led you to the point of what you're doing right now, and why you're so passionate about the work that you're doing right now.
Well, I think that what we want to lead off with today is the IRS coming out and saying that they're starting a program that's going to focus on the individuals who are filing false returns and also the failure to file individuals. So government enforcement is getting greater and greater. My background is I spent 9 years with the IRS. I'm a CPA attorney, and I audited large corporations. And one of the very first things we did as an IRS agent when I audited large corporations was to go in and see if their internal controls were correct. And at the IRS, you focus on the officers of the corporations. And the reason you focus on the officers of the corporations is because if something was going wrong within the corporation, it usually was something that was directed from the top. Well, that led me into the Department of Justice, where I prosecuted tax cases, and I also prosecuted official corruption, which politicians have violated the law. But the one thing that I noticed that's led me into the various areas that I've gone to for protecting CEOs and officers was the fact that CEOs and officers, for the most part, and I think you should pay close attention to this, is they are really not represented by the corporation if something goes wrong. By that I mean the corporation has the option. They can represent the corporate officer, or they could let the corporate officer find their own attorneys. So in effect, they represent their attorneys, and the corporation are watching out for themselves. And when there's a problem, the CEO and other officers could be on their own. Well, the CEOs and the officers should be protecting themselves, because many of the things that go wrong in a corporation are done by subordinates. And what the government has done, and it started last November, is they came out with a policy. The Department of Justice came out with a policy, and shortly after the Justice Department came out with that policy, they codified it in the United States Attorney's Manual. And what they basically said is that what we're going to do if we target, for example, XYZ Corporation, what we're going to do is we're going to also target individuals within that corporation who could have committed the potential crime. So that means all of the individuals now are on their own. They're pretty much going to have to get their own attorneys, and they're not protected. The key to getting around all of this for the CEOs and officers is for them to have what we call a compliance plan in place, an ethics plan in place, and a due diligence formulation in order to make sure that individuals around them are held accountable and are doing the things that these CEOs and officers want them to do that are legal.
So, Howard, I have to ask. We're all following the news and the proposed budget, and we've heard our current president, President Trump's proposed cuts on many government agencies. We all know the statistics that beefing up the IRS actually brings in money to the government coffers, but with the proposed cuts that the president has talked about, the IRS will be, and the current IRS commissioner talks regularly about this, that they are understaffed and they don't have the enforcement teeth that they used to have. How will that affect what you're talking about, their increased diligence at going after companies that are filing false returns if they don't have the manpower for it?
Shalom, all it is a matter of allocating manpower. They may allocate them to certain segments, certain places. And don't forget the government has the benefit of data analytics. So they know what areas are most profitable. So they take the individuals that they have. It's like fighting a war. You can fight a war in two cities, or you can fight it in one city, and that's the way they will do it. Yes, they are. There's no question they're understaffed, and but that doesn't mean that if you're the duck in the sky flying in a group of ducks and that one bullet goes off and you're the duck that's hit, you're done for. But let's not focus on the IRS. Let's focus on the Department of Justice. Mm-hmm. And the Department of Justice is, especially in the healthcare area, there's no shortage of money. 50% of all of the penalties that are collected in the healthcare area are used to hire new law enforcement people. So the budget isn't being cut there, and it's almost a self-funding prophecy for the Office of Inspector General and for the various Department of Justice attorneys. So that's one area that the government has already said that there's going to be no cuts in, and they're going to continue to move forward.
It certainly sounds like that. And how can companies proactively protect themselves from being the target of increased investigations and prosecutions?
The way to do it is to put in a healthcare compliance plan. If it's a healthcare company, or if it's a company that has government regulations, it's put in a compliance plan, similar to what we call internal controls in corporations. And what you do is you put individuals out there. In our particular case, we do that. We go out in front of the CEO or the officers, and we take a look. We do a risk analysis of potential problems within the company, and then we go in and we close those, do the due diligence on the part of the officers and the CEO, and we close those gaps, and we make sure the individuals that are doing the things that they're assigned to do are doing them in accordance with the law. We also believe that you put in a firm ethics program. And if you have an ethics program that starts at the top and it really permeates the entire organization, what you will find is that if you can get 50% compliance in the ethics program, you're going to get almost 100% compliance in the compliance program and in terms of abiding by the law. You'll have a law-abiding entity. So it's getting out there, and the officers and CEOs aren't the ones that should carry this off. It should be done by the outside experts who should do this, and they will do it in conjunction with the various financial officers and individuals who attend to the quality and other things within the organization. So the CEO what has happened in cases is the CEO has been blamed for the actions of people beneath them. And what this does is it cuts that off. And under the new program that the government has that started back in November, what the government wants to do is it wants to get the people beneath to target the person at the top. And that just isn't fair.
It's not fair, but Howard, we are going to have to leave it there. You've shared so much helpful information, advice, and certainly this conversation will be continued. But we've got just about 30 seconds remaining, and I want to make sure our listeners know where they can find you to continue the discussion. Howard, do you mind sharing any information for our listeners?
You know, they could reach me. I'll get my office phone number is 847-239-7555. And if any of your listeners have any questions, they can feel free to call me, and I will converse with them.
Absolutely. Howard Stone, a CPA, an attorney, an accomplished litigator, plenty of experience with a lot of expertise, including at the IRS, the Department of Justice, and a great deal of information shared with our listeners. Again, I encourage our listeners, contact Howard Stone, have that conversation. You can never be too protected. Coming up, we will be chatting with Tom Broadwater, president of Americans for Work. Fascinating discussion coming up right after this quick break.
Stuck in